Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I would like to share with you all my final thoughts on The Seed, and that is the brand. I just don't care to try to pronounce it anymore because it's just a funny kind of name. But that's the logo. I'm sure plenty of you guys recognize it as a budget-oriented brand that started off of Amazon, and that's exactly where I got this particular unit from. I bought it off of Amazon. I think I got it on sale for about 20 bucks. Currently, it's closer to $23, but at the time of this recording, there's actually a little 10% click to apply coupon thing that you could add to get a little bit closer to 20 bucks. Now, while this doesn't seem super interesting, it's small. Yes, I know people don't really like small knives all that much. I think that this has plenty of potential to be maybe your kid's first knife. Or maybe if you are just looking for a little budget beater knife that's a fifth pocket carry, but a little bit more hand filling, well, this is it. And talking about having, giving something like this to a child, essentially, it's definitely a simple and safe design to help a younger minded individual learn the basics of safety when it comes to using this as a tool. Of course, there is the talk about this as a potential weapon and where this should and should not be carried. Of course, they wouldn't recommend having this in their backpack as they are going to school, that's for sure. But on a camping trip, on a family outing, to a national park, or just something that's a little bit more outdoor oriented, I think that this is a very appropriate little gift to give to either a boy or girl. It doesn't really matter. The design, as I mentioned before, it is very simple. The price, very inexpensive, and realistically, it is large enough and I guess wide enough in hand that would allow a younger individual to have a little bit more confidence when interacting with said object, because it doesn't require a whole lot of dexterity when it comes to deployment and things like that. I think the smartest thing to teach a younger individual is showing them how to properly open and close a knife, and this design definitely allows for a comfortable grip in doing so in the pinch to open. And then of course, learning how to interact with one of the simplest locks out there is a liner lock, and then closing it with their fingers out of the way. I think that this is a very appropriate little tool right here, for sure. And eventually they can get used to opening it one hand. There are bearings within the pivot, which makes this extremely smooth. A ceramic detent ball, ceramic bearings again, and a little pocket clip that is reversible. So if your child is left-handed as well, hey, there's that. Eventually they will get a little bit more comfortable with this and will reverse flick it and do things like that. Now, while I don't typically talk about gifting stuff like this to little kids, I still think it's very important because my journey started when I was extremely young, and my cousin gifted me a knife and showed me absolutely zero knife safety, and I hurt myself quite often, and it was through those harsh lessons that I learned basic safety, and I am where I am now. And while there aren't any sort of medical repercussions or lasting effects from what had happened to me when I was younger, I still count myself very lucky. So teaching knife safety to a younger audience is something that is very important, and I think that this little guy right here is definitely a wonderful platform to start on. Let's go ahead and take the weight. We'll do some size comparison against 6 to 7 other knives out of my collection that I typically use for size comparison. 3.1, 3.2. This thing is a lot denser for what the size overall would suggest. Well, that's all right, not really that big of a deal. You do have thick micarta scales with proud steel liners. You can see there are holes in there for weight relief on both sides, which is nice. There are 2 variations of this color-wise. They both have this little G10 inlay surrounding the pivot on either side, just because I know that might not be a preferable, visual design aspect, but that's just kind of how it is. So there's a green micarta and then this black one. Of course, this is the black one. It looks pretty nice. Eventually it'll darken up and get a little bit richer colored, as it's being used. And for the micarta and for the price, it's contoured. This is actually very comfortable in hand. Little to no fuzz. The machining of this is quite nice and definitely quite a surprise for the price that it's coming in at. So sorry if you hear dogs in the back. I'm watching my sister-in-law's dogs, and they have like separation anxiety, as many small dogs do. Let's go ahead and start with some smaller guys. This is the Free Tiger FT2103. As you can see, it is a whole lot larger than the Seed here. Next one, this is the CJRB Pyrite Light, rose gold, website exclusive, and again, a whole lot more, length overall. So those are the two smaller ones. We can do two, a little bit larger ones. Actually, let's just do the Spyderco's. This is a Manix 2 lightweight, a Native 5. Another wonderful individual gift knife to give to a younger individual to learn how to interact with. A very simple design, You just have, a back lock. You could teach a kid to open it. You're using the hole and the pinch, and then, to disengage with the back lock. Very traditional opening mechanism, right? To a lot of people who are used to stuff within the knife hobby. This is kind of bland and boring, but I believe it still has its place in anybody's collection, and I absolutely love the Native 5. Couple more. CMB Main Knife Predator. That's a fun one too. And the Vision FG by Civivi. Am I focused here? There we go. And I think last one that I typically do just cause this is a Microtech MSI, so it's almost twice the length of the Seed. So well, there's that. So that's plenty of size comparison knives, I believe. Now, talking about this guy, materials, at least this is D2 blade material. The stock is definitely on the I don't want to say the thicker side, but for the overall length and height, it is kind of stocky. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that interruption there. I had to bring the dogs back in. We could talk about the materials again that are being used. D2 blade material, the stock on this is a little bit thicker for what you would typically want, in my opinion, for something this small, but it's still relatively appropriate. It's more of a stouter utility blade, and the shape itself is quite wonderful. This has been actually sharpened and reprofiled. I think this is a 18 or 17 degree edge. It's pretty darn slicey for what it is, and you can definitely get a whole lot of leverage and comfortability too because of how wide this actually is in hand. Let me get something else real quick. Here's a Native 5 just to show you guys. So this thing is a little bit thicker than the Native 5 lightweight, which I believe is about the same thickness as the standard G10 ones, but not the Proud Steel linered variation, which are, I believe at this point, all discontinued, but or just no longer being made. But for what this thing is, I think it's pretty darn sweet. So we already talked about the scale material, T8 for the pivot, a lot of T6 body screws, not a big fan of it, but they're there. They're actually pretty good hardware in my opinion for the most part. Didn't have any stripping issues or anything like that. The pocket clip is definitely on the lengthier side, is about 2/3 of the length of the knife in the closed position. It's not a hot spot at all. It rides pretty low in the pocket for sure. the rise to the pocket clip itself. It's not abrupt or aggressive. It's a very slow rise, honestly, so it's not going to snag super easily. It is slender, and again, out of the way, it's not going to be a hot spot, at least for me. I have large to extra size hands, so majority of this disappears in hand. That this really is just a nice little utility cutter with a very, very low tip. I wouldn't really call this a sheep's foot or a drop point or really anything else. It's kind of a mix of a lot of different things, but it's a full belly drop point that, you know, has like a super low tip. So, but for typical utility use, little score cuts and things like that, this is going to be quite nice. And if you do live in an area with blade length restriction laws, this is definitely something that I would consider. And I do actually recommend this quite a bit because for the price, this thing is actually built pretty well. And I bought this on my own. This wasn't sent to me or anything, so I'm not getting paid to say anything good about it. I'm saying good stuff about it because for what it is, it's actually pretty darn impressive for the price. Again, bearings within the pivot. The bearings are riding on hardened steel races as well. That's something you do not almost ever see on stuff in this price range. Even stuff that is in the multi-$100 price ranges, they don't have steel races. So that's quite nice, actually. You can see the stop pin right there in a traditional position, right there, and back over there. And two little black standoffs, a lanyard hole right there. Now, the cleanliness of the lanyard hole itself, there's a little bit of fuzz, a little bit of breakout of the micarta material that could easily be cleaned out with like a little toothpick or something. Just, you know, brush it out of there essentially. But that is pretty much it. Do I recommend this? Yeah, I absolutely do recommend it. If you're looking for a small, compact, hand-filling utility knife, essentially, 5th pocket carry, or if you live in an area with blade length restriction laws, this is definitely a good one here. If you're looking for something, at least for this holiday season, to gift to your nephew or niece, or even your own son or daughter, to get them into knives, maybe not as far as becoming an enthusiast, but at least knowing how to operate and respect a basic tool that this is. I think that is very important. And this is definitely a good option right here. So as I mentioned earlier, the operation of this thing is very simple, very straightforward. People with smaller hands can definitely do just the, pinch open and then close. They don't have to be super, tactical and aggressive. I don't expect anybody to be like reverse flicking this thing and, like getting super aggressive about it. That's not what this is at all. This is a simple little budget utility knife, 5th pocket carry or gift, a stocking stuffer essentially. That's what this is. But it's pretty sweet. I like it. Also, something else that I noticed is that this design has actually been made by a couple different, I wouldn't call them micro brands, but they're like Amazon, like Chinese brands. And I think the first time I saw something that looked quite like this was from Sitivian. Sitivian has like 2 or 3 models that has damn near the same blade shape, the hole, and I believe a similar pocket clip as well. I'm not sure who is the designer. This has no designer name or logo imprinted on the blade. It's very sterile. The only thing that's on the blade is just a little blade steel stamp, the D2 right there. That's about it. Now, am I saying that this company is stealing the design? Probably not. It's probably just an interpretation of a relatively simple design, or this was just a design that was made by somebody and sold to the company to produce. But I have seen this shape and this design in various sizes. There's another wonderful individual, I believe it was G-Ball, who had gotten something from Sitivian that is like 50% bigger than this overall. So if you do want something that's a little bit larger, Sitivian is a company that I can definitely vouch for because I've handled plenty of their budget stuff and their premium stuff in the past, and it's pretty darn good stuff. They just have quirky designs, little questionable designs, but something I don't question is their fit and finish for the price. Definitely a good value brand to look into as well if that kind of stuff speaks to you. Sativian is the name of that brand, and that's where you could find something that's like this, just a whole lot larger overall if that's something that you are interested in. So that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot more that needs to be said about this. This isn't a complicated knife by any means. It's very simple. I believe it has its place here in the hobby and the community. It's built quite well for the price, and there's nothing bad about it. And that's, you know, I'm pretty proud to say that, because I always tend to find something, you know, negative to say about, you know, any kind of knife at any price range. There's a little, I mean, maybe if I'm gonna say anything, it's that there's like 3-4 jimps right here, and they're completely flush and meaningless. It would have been pretty sweet if it was like all the way out over here, or maybe just nothing at all, because it seems kind of pointless. But like, you're never gonna interact with jimping that shallow and tight right there. That's just not a thing at all. But that's it. D2 is good blade material for this price range. It did sharpen up quite well, and it should be a very easy blade shape to maintain. Throw into your whatever sharpening system of your choice, put a quick little edge on it, and just go back to work with this thing. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like down below. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support and your patience, of course. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing, because I play more videos and content coming you guys this way. And with that being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.